Welcome to our new unit of work. We're going to be looking at Scratch programming, but more importantly, the different computer science principles that sit behind Scratch computer programming. In this lesson, we're going to look at creating a series of instructions. Our keywords today are output, sequence, input, feedback, and sprites. And you should have met some of these words already. By the end of today's lesson, I want you to be able to tell me what is a computer sequence. And here are our key questions. Have a pause on these questions, read them through. You should be able to answer these by the end of today's lesson. Task number 1. Go back to your programming postcards and have a look at the sequence page. Can you remember what a sequence is, and can you give an example? Please pause this video, go back and have a look at your postcard now. You should have found out that a sequence is the order of instructions that a computer will run code in. Now, when we're following a sequence, we do this in everyday life. Just think about getting ready for school. We don't put our uniform on, then go and have breakfast, and then go and have a shower, because otherwise we'd end up soaking wet. We'd have a shower first, then dry ourselves, then put our uniform on, and then go and get our breakfast. If we don't get the sequence right, then we're going to struggle with the computer program. Now remember, a computer program follows a step-by-step set of instructions, and it's not going to work as you want it unless it's following our sequence. So go to your student workbook. This should be a brand new student workbook. Can you remember from logo what the sequence was to make a square? Try and write your code in to this box now, and then try and rearrange the blocks to give a definition of a sequence. You should have now answered that. Now there are lots of different answers to this. Remember, we could do FD100 RT90, FD100 RT90, FD100 RT90, and then finally FD100. Notice that I made a mistake here. That should have been a capital letter. There is a quicker way. If you remember, in our sequence we could have used a repeat, but remember, this is our sequence of instructions. So what is a sequence? Did you get this correct? We're going to start with the. It's the order that instructions run in an algorithm. Can you remember our keyword algorithm? An algorithm is a problem. It's a computer sequencing of instructions that solve a certain problem. Task number 2, you're going to have to go to the following website. Now you might have used this before, www.scratch.mit.edu. Once you reach this page, please click Join Scratch on the top right hand corner. Please use your school username and your school password so that you're not going to forget your login details. Once you're logged in, you'll be met with a page looking a little bit like this. You can create projects at the top, or you can search for existing projects. Let's create a new project and have a look at the workspace. So when we've clicked Create, you'll be met by a screen looking like this. You can see a series of scripts down the left-hand side. The scripts come in different categories such as motion, looks, sounds, events and control, and we'll have a little bit more of a look at these in future lessons. At the top you can also see our costumes. Think of in a play, a character has different costumes that they can change into. So you can see our cat here has 2 different views. Now we call our characters sprites, and you can remember that by looking at the name of our character. We have our stage in the right hand side, and this is where you'll see your final programs. You've got the options underneath that, including all the different sprites that you might add. There are a few other buttons such as add a sprite at the bottom, where you can create a new sprite yourself, or you can load an existing sprite. You can also choose and edit backgrounds using this button just here. There is one extra tab, which is the Sounds tab. You can record sounds in here, which can be added to your sprites. Remember that you can save your project and load old projects by using the toolbar at the top. Your next task is to go to your workbook. In your workbook, you will see a picture of our front page in Scratch. Can you label the different parts? Make sure you pause the video and then try and label these parts, and I'll give you the answers shortly. You should have completed this task now. If not, please pause the video, and if you need extra help, watch the last part of my video, which talks you through the different sections of the code. Here are the answers. First of all, the stage. The stage is where the characters perform, and this is in the right hand side. Our scripts are the blocks of code that we will use to make things work. Our sprites are the characters, and our sprites appear in the bottom right hand side, so we can put both of these here. And our script area is in the middle. This is where we will build our blocks of code. I'm now going to show you the following: how to add a sprite, how to edit a sprite, how to edit the background, and how to add a new background. There is an extension. Can you add a background from the internet? You're going to need to know this because there is a task coming up where you're going to have to be given a series of tasks. So here's your first learning. To add a new sprite, we just need to click on the Choose a Sprite button from the bottom right hand corner. There are lots of different sprites, and you can search through these, and they are categorized at the top for you. We've already got a cat, so let's add a crab. You can see my crab appears on the screen, and I can move this around. If I want to delete a character or a sprite, I click on this and I can delete using the options at the bottom using the delete button. Now I can change the size of a sprite, change its directions by using the options here. So if I was to change this to 200, you will see the sprite gets significantly bigger. I can change the direction it's pointing by using this arrow, but I'm going to keep mine facing in this direction, and I can choose to hide or show that sprite at the moment. Now, if I click on my costumes tab, I can edit my sprite, and you can see it has two different costumes. This is where I can use my tools down the right hand side to change my sprite. If I select my fill tool, I can change the colour of my sprite to match the colour that I would like. Remember, if I change one sprite and it has different costumes, you may want to do the same for all the other characters and costumes that that character has. If I go back to my code, you will see the character has changed in my stage. I can draw my own sprite by, rather than just clicking on the cat button, I can just click paint, and it will allow me to draw my own sprite. To add a background, it's the same process but using this button here. There are lots of different backgrounds that I could choose from, and because I have a crab, I'm going to look for something which is probably under the sea, and there's a nice underwater one here. You can see here my crab is now underwater, and if I go back to my code, there my crab is, and I could move it around. Your next task now is to try and add a sprite, edit it, change the background, and then add a new background. If you manage to do that, please can you add a different background from the internet. Please pause your work and go and complete that now. Here is an example of the knock knock joke that you are going to make now. Hey Joe, want to hear a joke? Sure, Sally. Knock knock. Who's there? Doris. Doris who? Door is locked. That's right. So this is a simple joke. Remember that you can search for examples to help you using the search bar. Let's have a look inside. We've got two different sprites. Each of them has a couple of different costumes. First of all, we always start our code with a when clicked. Then we can use a series of different codes to help us say something. If I go to my looks, I can make our character say something, and we can decide how long that's going to have to be for. And this is where our sequence comes in. If our characters are talking, we're going to want to make them look like they're talking to each other, so they're not going to have to talk at the same time. Look how I've included weights in my code. This allows us to make one character talk while the other one is not. So if I go to my control, I can add a weight. So you can see this character is going to say hello. If we go to the girl, remember we always start with when clicked. Forget the code on the left hand side at the moment. Now this gentleman is going to say something first, so we want her to wait, and we said wait for 2 seconds. He's then going to say something. Remember, this is in the looks block. We tab it on, and then we're going to say hello, can I tell you a joke? Now we might make her wait afterwards. I'm going to make her wait another 2 seconds, and we're going to go back to him, and now we want him to say something back. So that might be yes please. So let's see what this looks like now. Hello. Hello, can I tell you a joke? Yes please. And that's how far we've got. And that's the basis of our knock knock joke. Now, for the simple task, that's all I want you to do. I want you to add one character with correct timing so that we can read it. For a middle level task, have 2 characters like I had with mine so they can communicate with each other. So we have a clear sequence, and you might even want to change the background. Now for gold, you might want to add some extra information like I did with mine. That might be user inputs, that might be sounds, that might be more information. So here is an example. Remember here I've used a block called point in direction. I can make them move. I can make them change costumes by using this block here. I can use sounds. So, using these blocks, see how you can improve your sequence of instructions. You need to pause your video and try and complete your knock knock joke now. You should have completed your knock knock joke, so let's have a look at what the homework will be. The homework is to create a games controller for 2 weeks' time. You're going to be given a makey board. You're going to be creating some games on Scratch, and you're going to be able to use your controller with physical computing to use and operate your game. You'll have a series of different crocodile clips. These crocodile clips must be able to attach to something which can conduct electricity. That could be tinfoil, it could be a coin, or it could be something a little bit different. Each one of them will have to connect to a separate crocodile clip. So look at the game's controller on the right hand side. You can see how the crocodile clips have connected directly to the tinfoil, so that when we press those, we will be able to connect to the computer to tell the computer that you are going in a certain direction. It only needs 4 buttons: up, down, left and right. Now we're going to be using Makey controllers, and you can use anything that you would like to do that. Your final task for this lesson is to go back to your programming postcards and complete the sections on sequence, input and output to show how these work in Scratch, similar to like we did with logo.